This is the Work Smart Hypnosis podcast session number 249. Dan Candell on anxiety relief.
Welcome to the Work Smart Hypnosis podcast with Jason Linett, your professional resource for hypnosis training and outstanding business success. Here's your host, Jason Linett.
Hey there, Happy New Year. This episode is launching on January 2nd, and you're one day in officially to the new year. What have you accomplished so far? We'll wait. Well, if not yet, this episode is going to give you some incredible inspiration. Dan's been on the program a couple of times before. He says it's the third time. I think it might actually be the fourth or fifth, but who's counting? And in this conversation, you're going to hear an amazing arc of what he's been up to since he's been on the program last, and more specifically, a one-time occurrence, one-time experience where simply a bit of media attention really spurred a whole new revolution in terms of how he has built out his business, really niching down and even so micro-niching, as I would say, into one specific category and really becoming that really just that clear expert in terms of the one person who's there to help out with that. And along the way, too, as life often does come our way, a few events that help to build a better meaning in terms of why we need to build systems within our business, why we need to look at what we do and how we do it, and again, kind of break away from the norm of, well, this is how most people do it. Well, there may be better ways, and it's time to start to reinvent that wheel. So in the show notes over at worksmarthypnosis.com, you're going to see the links to all the various projects that Dan talks about in this outstanding conversation. That's where you can link over and subscribe to Dan's podcast as well, edited by the same phenomenal people who also edit the Work Smart Hypnosis podcast, because we like to keep it in the family. Kate put the details in the show notes. Sell yourself. And looking at, again, how we can start to reach a bigger audience. And on top of that, too, there's a magical moment where we make a bit of a transition where it's not just talking about business. It's not just talking about harnessing media and marketing. It's really about looking at how do we build that ideal client experience. You know, the framework of when someone's usually on this program, not someone like Dan, because he's been on a couple of times before, but before I hit record with someone who's brand new to this, I give them a bit of a, landscape of where we're going to go, that we kind of begin with that superhero origin story, because that's a great way for the audience to get to know you. Then from there, we kind of transition to, what we'd call the user experience, what it's like for someone to be working with you. And then we also kind of dip into the philosophies of how you do what you do, which is a nice way if you've got books or websites you want people to check out. Now you're able to mention those when they understand who you are. Well, the function of what Dan's done, something that I've done in a similar way, just with different applications of it, because all this stuff works, you just have to actually do it. But looking at how we can start to build that better user experience, not just for the sake of it helps our income to grow, pays our bills, and hey, this was recorded a little bit after Thanksgiving, and perfect timing for Black Friday because our oven died. And we went shopping and bought a new one instead. Guess what? The inside is purple. Because of course. No, but looking at how it's not just about the shape of our business and our own personal comfort, but looking at how do we build that better client experience, where there's a moment where I want you to take note of two specific things that Dan talks about. One of them, some of you may take some offense to, but let me call it out. I do the same thing, which is that I don't return every inquiry. I don't take on every consultation. I may pivot away to say, watch this video first, because it's going to answer the questions you're already asking, plus the ones you haven't yet thought to ask. Then once you've done that, then schedule this call. I want to have this conversation when you've already seen for yourself the value of what it is going to be, and also you've identified yourself as someone who's going to follow the steps of the process, because this is symbiotic. And get ready for the ultimate and cliffhangers that'll have you listening all the way through this episode. Dan shares with you what I'd agree to be the 8 most powerful words you can say to your client, potential client on the phone, that helps to turn them into that raving fan and already starts to get the change in motion even before they actually walk into your space, begin the session, attend your live event, interact with your webinars, Dan does it, or however you do the work. So this is one you're going to want to take some notes on, because again, these 8 words are powerful. I've got different words, but they're basically the same concept. It's not the words, it's the intention, though these 8 words are pretty damn good. And yes, we spend quite some time talking about Dan's ass. If that doesn't have you listen to the entire episode, buckle up. This is a great one. It's great when, you do these things with people you already know, like, and trust. And that's where it's often fun. And so again, head over to the show notes at worksmarthypnosis.com. Subscribe to Dan's podcast, check out his websites, and friend him up on Facebook and find his MySpace page as well, because I did years ago, and that was fun. While you're online too, of course, check out Hypnotic Business Systems. This is the all-access pass to my hypnosis business training library. It features done-for-you marketing campaigns, and I think we need to remount the testimonial that Dan did on there. I took it down because the program used to be called Hypnosis Business Bootcamp. We renamed it because other people who were not hypnotists were wanting it. That's when it was sort of revivified as, that's not right, reborn and regenerated, and out of the ashes, the bird of Phoenix flew out as Hypnotic Business Systems. So I did take down Dan's testimonial because he talked about bootcamp. But he tells the story of hiring this expensive business coach that after $3,000 or $4,000, not much was done, and simply making use of one of the modules inside of what was then Bootcamp, which is now Hypnotic Business Systems, made back the investment of my course, what he had lost on the coach, and much more. The Facebook marketing section, again, there's a trend here. I love you, Dan. He mentioned that he'd gone through this like multiple $1,000 Facebook course, which I've got like a 45-minute video in the Facebook marketing module, which taught him the one strategy that works and was what he needed to put in place. So again, this is not armchair philosophy. This is the stuff that I've done and tested for you, and it's now available on an all-access pass. Model what works. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Netflix for your hypnosis business training library. Check it out, hypnoticbusinesssystems.com. And with that, Happy New Year. Here we go, episode number 249, Dan Candell on anxiety relief. Hey, Dan, I already just hit record because you've been on here a bunch of times before.
Third time's the charm.
Exactly. Is it 3 times?
It is 3 times. Yeah, this is my 3rd time with you on here.
Oh, but who's counting? Yeah, and specifically wanted to have you come back on because I know in the past we've kind of talked around business systems. We've kind of talked around, superhero origin story. We were discussing the wonderful fact that for both of us with a background in podcasting, you don't quite figure this thing out until you're well into it.
Yeah.
So kind of catch us up. What's been going on since you were last on?
All right. So, I have been branded as the anxiety relief guy, and I rode this freaking wave. Like, oh my gosh. And you know what, Jason? This is airing on January 2nd. On January 1st, so almost 1 year and 1 day ago today, I was on a radio show, and kind of like a talk show radio show, I guess you might call it a podcast, about how I helped children with pandas, and not the fluffy, cuddly kind, but pandas is a condition where younger children, when they get strep and tonsillitis, it causes swelling in the brain. That swelling in the brain causes all different behavioral issues, anxiety, OCD, ODD, sleep issues, anger issues, and these kids literally turn into Satan children overnight. And what happens is parents don't know how to adapt their parenting style to accommodate the rapid change that their children have made in behavior. So they're spending thousands and thousands of dollars in therapists, medication, psychologists, counselors. They'll hire people to come into their home and work with the kids. Therapists will have to go to school with their children because that's the only way they'll go to school because of the anxiety. So there's a local doctor that specializes in working with kids and families who have pandas. So he sent me a few people, and I had these miraculous results with them. So there is one parent who is like, I call her my crusader. And she's actually a person that I trained as a hypnotist since then to work in my practice. And she specializes in working with kids who have pandas and families of pandas. And she's a big advocate. So I was on this podcast 1 year and 1 day ago today. Mm-hmm. And that was also the day I launched my Anxiety Relief Guy website. That was also the day I launched my Anxiety Relief Revolution webinar. And wow, Jason, I sit back and I am so thankful that, we talk about niching. And sometimes you choose a niche, other time the niche chooses you. And this time the niche chose me. And I was already working with anxiety. I would say about 6 years ago when I was working with anxiety, clients gave me anxiety. I didn't know much about it. And so I started to get really, really popular. And now I only see people for anxiety and high performance issues.
Hmm.
And I still do see people for smoking cessation because I have a personal connection with my dad and I want to save people's lives. If it's like little habitual things like nail biting, if it's weight reduction, I no longer do that.
Hmm.
I hired two other hypnotists in my office that I trained. One is a therapist, and so she takes all those extra clients that I don't take. She also can work more with addictions and more psychological disorders and diagnoses that I don't work with, that I'm not qualified to work with. And I have the other person, Kim. She wants to only work with children and teens. So it's a perfect balance. Liz only works with people over the age of 21. Kim works with people under the age of 21 and under. So it's perfect. And I'm just somewhere in the middle.
Right. Yeah.
So
That's one of those greatest things, which we almost have to have that journey. I mean, this is that mistake that I think a lot of people make when they're getting started. And I was guilty of this, of going, this is the one thing I want to do.
mm,
And I did it and I got into it and I found I just wasn't that into it as I expected. And
right.
here was this other category because I was the one early on going, I don't want to see these smoking people. They're going to stink up my office, which surprisingly, no, they don't, because most of them are experts at masking that stuff. Yet Richard Nongard had the line, I heard him say this last year, if I'm only going to work with those people I know I can get 100% success with. And my sort of twist on that is I'm only going to work with those people that I'm extremely excited to go to the office and actually work with them. That I like having that aspect of coming here and doing the work in this location and being in the space. But again, here's where I can very comfortably now say something calls it, yeah, I think you're going to be a better fit for this person.
You, I think, are the only person that I've talked to in the past 6 months who did a Richard Nongard without impersonating him. And you only see the people who you are. I love Richard, but it's hard to not talk about him and not use his voice. So
I forget, what was it? The magician Penn Jillette has a whole routine around you have in your brain the other guy voice. And here's a project I did recently that I had to reach out to say, I'm giving this person, I think, the wrong other guy voice. Is he friendly? Yeah, he's just very blunt on Facebook. I'm like, okay, good. Thank you. So yes, because I respect my friend.
I respect him too. That's why I
That's
have
why
to say
you.
things in his voice. Is you know what? I would expect him to say things in my voice.
Exactly. So on that note, but yeah, I mean, finding something that, listening to your audience and really looking at how one specific moment where did you have the intention of, was that podcast that you were on specifically about pandas or was it?
It
Yeah.
was. And here's the amazing thing that happened. On that podcast, I had the mom. I had a mom who brought in. This is Kim, the one that I recently hired to work in my practice. And Kim was not a hypnotist; she's a teacher, and
She's a
and
hypnotist.
and she's a hypnotist, exactly.
Yes.
And she was saying to me, "This is so." When I was training her, she said, "This is so weird. I like use this in my classroom all the time. I didn't realize it was hypnosis. It's
Yeah.
hypnosis." So there was a radio talk show host who interviewed me, and he also interviewed Kim. And he also interviewed her 12-year-old daughter who
Mm,
saw me. And this was like, it was like a 30-minute testimonial of
nice.
glorifying the process that we worked with. Now, I have to say, I've learned so much more about pandas, and I've learned that it's a very difficult situation for the family and also for me, because when we're used to seeing people, Jason, I'm used to seeing people for my anxiety relief I call it my break free program. I'm used to seeing people 4 times and then they're done. However, with kids who have pandas, often it's not just 4 times. I'm
Mhm.
seeing them 12, 14, 16 times. Now, I charge $1,500 to $2,500 for 4 sessions, and these parents aren't going to pay. Let's say they're coming in for 12 sessions. That's, let's say, 25, 25.
That's roughly 5,000.
That's $5,000 for 8 sessions is $5,000. They can't afford that, and I don't want to charge them that either, because I don't want to take advantage of the problems that they're dealing with. So I actually had to come up with a different way of working with these people. So where instead of seeing them for 4 sessions, I'm seeing them for mini sessions. So I'll see them for 30 minutes in the office, and then the next week I'll do a 30-minute FaceTime with them. So that way, we're, instead of doing four longer sessions, I'm seeing them for 8 shorter sessions.
Yeah. And this is working with the child?
With the child, yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which I want to highlight something that you just said, that here I am right now and I've eliminated phone tag from my world, except this is the week where now I'm playing phone tag with these 2 guys who separately want to quit smoking. And the whole setup is that, well, we don't do the internet. So like even the fact that this is where I break protocol in my office and I type in their cell phone number into my cell phone and I see, oh, it's also an iPhone. I can send them text messages.
Right.
And I send the guy, here's the video to watch. There's a bit of a generational gap sometimes. And I say this as the 85-year-old client was the man in my class one time at 85 years old was the first one who ever pulled out his phone and snapped a photo of the practice list when everyone else was scribbling it out. So
Yeah.
let's not get ageist on this. But I bring this up because you're with kids. This is an age range where that's completely normal.
Right.
So it's not something you have to convince them. Like I sometimes have to say to people, we can be just as effective working remotely. And I've got to sell them on that idea. At that younger age range, that's standard.
It's standard. And my intention was not to work with children. In fact, I was winding down working with kids.
Yeah.
And then this happened. But a year ago, I had launched my anxiety relief guy site on the webinar, and it was geared towards business professionals and sales professionals. And I still work with a lot of sales professionals. I still work with a lot of professional athletes. I was contacted by a very famous team to work with their players for a very famous issue. And I can't talk about what it was or
Right,
what team it was, but especially
but it rhymes with the Bedskins.
Get out. No, it doesn't. But I still work with a lot of those issues and just traditional anxiety. And I rode this wave, the anxiety relief guy wave. And now I have my own podcast called the Anxiety Relief Revolution. And by the way, thank you for referring me to the podcast company. They've been great.
Which, by the way, this little window is where the sound quality is going to be the best. And Kate put the links in the show notes to them because they do great work.
They really do. And, I'm so thankful that they were persistent in working with me because I started with them right in the midst of going through some personal challenges and struggles, which was very anxiety producing for me throughout my life. And so when that happened, and I've kind of kept this shielded, but what happened was my dad, he was experiencing a lot of health issues. He almost died several times in the hospital. And in the midst of that, my doctor called me, actually, Jason, when I was with you in June, and he said, "Where are you?" I said, "I'm in Virginia." "Why?" He's like, "When will you be home?" Which is never a good thing for your doctor to ask you.
No.
And I remember it was after the ICBCH training, and you and I and Richard Nongard, Deanna Nunez with John Sorbonne, a bunch of other people, we were at a Mexican restaurant. And I said, "Sorry, my doctor's office is calling me. I got to go." And I went outside and I came in and he was like, "What's going on?" I said, "I don't know. He told me I had abnormal blood work. He wants to see me as soon as possible." Well, it turns out the abnormal blood work was consistent with leukemia. And when I found that out, I went through this, I don't even know what you call it. It's stronger than a depression. It's worse than anxiety. It's, I'm going to die now. Mm-hmm. And so I tell my clients, though, if you have a tragedy or if you're told really bad news, it's natural for your mind to go there. So let it happen, but put a time limit on it. So I said, okay. I said, I'm going to let myself think that I'm going to die for 3 days. And then after that, whatever happens, happens. And in the midst of that, that's when I was also taking care of my dad. So I was in the hospital anyway every day. So so it really didn't matter. and I laughed at it, just like I just did. And yeah, there were times where I was scared. There were times I was nervous. But all of that was in the midst of me building all of this anxiety stuff. And what that taught me, it taught me simplification and it taught me streamlining. And that's where I streamlined my process. That's where I automated almost everything so that my business still ran even while I was in the hospital with my dad, even though I thought I was going to die, which spoiler alert, I'm still here. I don't have, it's a condition called chronic leukemia. I do not have that. There's another condition they thought I had called hemochromatosis, which is when you make too much blood. And the hematologist and the oncologist, they said, if you have hemochromatosis, you just donate blood. And I looked at them with the straightest face I could possibly make.
I didn't know where you're going.
Yep. and I said, I'm gay. I can't donate blood. And The hematologist looked at me back with a straight face and goes, "We will dispose of your blood." And just matter of fact like that. And and I'm like, well, that's rude. We will flush it down the toilet. But no. So I actually heard back. This was ongoing from June when I was with you up until the third week of September.
I just have to pause there for a second just to elaborate for those that don't know the details of that. There's a whole list, and let me just call it out and share a strong opinion. I disagree with this, but there's a whole list of certain things that if you fit into these categories, just the red cross, and specifically, and this is from someone who yesterday donated blood for the 14th time. So almost 2 full gallons, by the
Way
way.
to brag.
In one day. Bloodletting's not working. Still have the sniffles. No, I mean, it's just this outdated thing that just, if you're in these categories, the answer is just no.
Right.
Even to the point that it becomes a 5-minute damn conversation towards, okay, I was in Italy and I was in Australia and then I was in the UK. No,
Right.
I didn't live there. Which I can appreciate, but let's call it out. They do all the tests and rant over it.
They do, yeah, and I'm not going to get into that because then we'll have the whole conversation about that. But
one more thing, no,
yeah. But essentially, I went through this time of panic. This is when I was supposed to build my business. This is ongoing just up until late September, where I got the phone call. You don't have this stuff. However, we want you to still go back and do blood tests every 6 months just to make sure your levels don't suddenly rise and to make sure things are consistent and whatever. The reason why I'm telling you this is because it really forced me to get into the mindset of what do I really want to do?
Yeah.
Because it forces me now to live every day because I was thinking, I'm not going to be here next year. And just so you know, I didn't reveal this to a lot of people because I want to be seen as the little boy who cries wolf. And I think it's absolutely awful to throw around and put in people's head that you might have cancer. I think that's awful. And I didn't want to do
Enter
that.
the promo code Too Much Blood to save 20% off this week only.
You're going to do that, aren't you? Happy New Year.
All caps, and be sure to enter apply. No, I think there's something to be said because I didn't make a big deal around something that, was happening back when my family member was in the hospital.
Right.
I had to because someone took offense that it took me 5 days to respond rather than 1 day.
Right.
And if it did, then I wish you the best with someone else.
Mm-hmm.
But we have these moments where we kind of have to make that decision as to, do we reveal it or do we, we'll say this in general terms, the one podcast session that I've deleted, or let's say replaced,
Yep.
Recognizing that there at least was a teaching moment out of it, of going, well, here's the reason why I deleted this person's episode, and here's what we can learn as a result of that. And good luck finding it, everybody.
Right.
Yeah.
That smile that you make when you get what you're talking about.
Exactly.
So
audio only.
So essentially, Jason, I had a lot of the same that where people were contacting me and they're like, you're not responding back to us. And I had a moral dilemma of do I tell them why? And I didn't. I just said I have some personal issues that I'm going through right now, and I have a lot on my plate. So I started referring my clients to other hypnotists and everything like that. And I was still making a living because I was only taking on those very high-end clients. I was still selling things on my website, and I ran a promotion and after sending 2 emails, made like $4,500 or $4,800 or something like that from sending 2 emails of a promotion I was running. And so things like that are things I did, but I streamlined the process so that worked. So right now, the podcast I do, the Anxiety Relief Revolution, it's worked very, very well. The TEDx talk still gets me clients. It's been viewed now more than 1.2 million times, which is awesome. And now it's still about building. In fact, you and I just had a conversation. It was a snow day. I had 2 snow days in a row. And I made landing pages and registration pages for webinars and recorded all these webinars and stuff for programs that I have coming up that I'm doing with parents of children who have anxiety and also for business professionals. So I have a 6-week program now that I call Break Free, and it's an online program and where we meet usually once a week in like webinar fashion as like a group coaching call. And that is proving it's working pretty well. It's still not at the point where I want to get it to, but it's working well enough where Everything's recorded. There's people in it now. And it's at the point where I'm getting amazing testimonials from these
Nice.
people. So that's what it's about now. And in the future, as of this new year, my goal is to get 12 people per month into that program. So,
Which, just to kind of unpack some of what Dan just talked about there, you look at how we can begin to streamline like what we do, and take note, everything that he was saying there was all from the theme of how do I provide a better service to the client? Yes, it does benefit back to us, yet how do we enhance that client experience, and seeing that, okay, doing this as a group coaching format was beneficial. To look too at, we have these moments where we set these big goals, and we sometimes do have to realize that because we're the ones who set them, we're the ones who can change them.
mhm, mhm.
I forget, I think I said this a couple of episodes ago, but my biggest headache of 2018 was that the people coaching me for my TEDx talk were telling me, shorten your stories, just teach your content. And my book writing coach was telling me, expand your stories
Yep.
to reinforce, like, which again, greatest problems in life are the ones you invent yourself. And here's project that I had in mind for November, which, yeah, February is good now based on how the rest of the year kind of played out for me.
Right.
But, to realize that, we set goals and we have to make modifications along the way. And this is that joy of being the entrepreneur, because I'm sure you've had projects that very quickly into it, you just completely abandoned.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Oh, give us one of these stories, because I got to share mine too.
All right. So,
Then we'll come back to what works.
okay. So one of the things that I was working on was a book called Out of the Box Techniques for Out of the Box Clients. And it was like a quick change. And I had written pretty much the entire manuscript. But then my first book that I published, which was The Hypnotic Connection, I self-published.
Mhm.
And
Which, by the way, now has a fantastic crack.
we
Should we
gotta
explain that, or
we
just
should
leave it there?
Mm, well,
The-
you
the-
helped
the
you helped
first-
expand that crack. So
I was in your home, so why not? The first
Oh.
draft of the book, the inner margin was a little too tight, so this became the running gag of the convention that year of going, yeah, but have you seen Dan's crack? Which,
Yeah.
by the way, he's gotten it fixed. But I'm sorry you were sharing.
Which I think, well, you were there when the first copies of the book came out. I
Oh
think
yeah,
I
yeah.
gave you the very first copy I had, and that's when we determined that. So that book, I realized, well, I didn't realize up until about 4 months after that I accidentally published the unedited version. And I felt like an idiot. I had people that were sending me messages like, "There's so many errors in your book. We found 38 errors." I'm like, "Ugh." So I put off every other thing that I was writing to go fix this. And I have to say, it's finally, after like a year later,
Mhm.
finally fixed. And it's on Amazon, and it's called The Hypnotic Connection. Shameless plug.
Links
But
in the show notes.
but that I had to put every other project on hold because I didn't want to have this one that was still out there dirty
Right.
with and where I'm creating new things, because that I'm like a brick factory, and I'm guilty of creating all these projects. And a lot of these projects, I'm a fan of done is better than perfect.
Mhm.
And some of the projects have little problems that pop up. And I am guilty of not always going back and fixing the problems that popped up. And one of them is my Confidence on Demand program. It says there are 5 confidence hacks, and people remind me every week that there are only 4 in there.
Because the fifth one was you all along.
Oh, I like that, and I'm
Yeah.
gonna use it.
You're welcome.
So yeah, I had to put off the writing of a couple other publications and books and stuff like that. So what's yours?
Oh, okay, you know this story.
Yes, I
I
do.
was going to launch a second podcast, which was going to be specifically targeting personal development. So not something, work smart hypnosis, as I've privately nicknamed it, as FUBU. It's for us, by us. It's very, I get clients from this all the time, but they very often say the same thing. There's like, I listened to that. It was good, but I don't think I'm the audience. So this is very much industry specific, people who are already in it or looking to learn more. So I was looking at launching another podcast that was more, something to funnel people into online programs, like a weight loss program, an anxiety program, something a little bit more generic that could let me kind of play a Tim Ferriss routine of going, I can talk business on this, but I also can talk about health. And I didn't want to use the word hypnosis right away. So, okay, so how can we twist this? Well, a big trending term right now is transformation. Let me
Mm.
start with that. And you already know where I'm going.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
then what's another thing for hypnosis? I don't want to use trance because I love
Hmm.
all of you, but when you say transformation, even though it's one of the best books in the industry, I hate you when you play that play on words. Uh, Getting in the zone. Yeah. So, Transformation Zone. The website is available. Wait, there's a guy who did a podcast called Transformation Zone like in 2013. Let me email him. He gave me the blessing. He didn't care. He only did 3 episodes and went on to something else. And I'm getting this all ready. I'm sending over to the graphic design. I do the standard thing. Back in that day, it was the record like 5 episodes, launch with 5. I had prepped 3 solo episodes. I'd done 2 high profile interviews. And at this point, a graphic designer goes, Jason, have you Googled this? I'm like, yeah, no one's using this. I got the website. I got the Transformation Dash Zone website. I got the .net. I got the .biz. I got the .ninja. No, not really, but I do have hypnosis.ninja, by the way. I've got everything. They go, have you Googled this? I'm like, yeah, no one's using it. And they go, do an image search. The part of the cervix that has to stretch the most for the baby's head to pass through the vagina during childbirth is the transformation zone.
Ta-da!
And so, by the way, anybody who wants to purchase transformationzone.com, we'll let you have that. Be sure to use the promo code too much. No.
You actually
No,
offered that to me, and I almost bought it
you
because
almost did.
you
But
didn't
here,
tell me
but
that.
here's the lesson. And there's a similar story, and you all haven't seen the next phase of this because this is what I've tabled for 2020, which was that I had an event at a marketing convention where I dropped a single phrase, which I'll leave out for now, and the entire audience leaned in because in that moment I had 850 people lean in, and when I dropped this one sentence, they went, "That's what I want." Was the energy of the room, and I went, "Okay, I'm doing that now." So similar to so really, it comes down to that flexibility that the greatest challenge. There's 2 things to kind of pull out of this as a learning lesson from what you've been through. Number one is just simply listen to your audience
Right.
because they're going to tell you what they need. They're going to tell you what they want, and they're going to tell you what works best for them. And at the same time, too, that flexibility, that the mistake that I see too many people make is here's the catchphrase: the word hypnosis is only about 180 years old. So we can't fall prey to the game of, but this is the way it's done.
Right.
So yes, I've got the office and the place and the big chair, but no, you're doing it online. Here's the person doing it from the platform. Here's the person who only does audios for people at home. All of these models are viable. It's a matter of customizing it to the audience so it's the right fit for them.
Right. And the for the people who do audios, and I looked at, so I wrote down in my iPad, I wrote down like 6 or 8 people that I admire, that I follow, and some are hypnotists and some are not, and people like that I want to watch, and there's a reason why I want to watch them. Like, one is really good at getting Yelp reviews and Facebook reviews. One is really good at selling out every single show that and presentation that he does, and he's not a hypnotist, he's a medium, and he's very close to me in my area. In fact, I was on a plane with him on the way back from Las Vegas, and he has a show coming out on the E Network on January 13th. So I wrote down like some of these people, and I reached out to a lot of these people and had conversations with them. Some of them are close friends of mine. And one of the biggest things that people who produce just audios and online content say are, you're going to be criticized. You're going to be criticized a lot. But you're going to be criticized by people who, with all due respect, people who don't matter.
Mhm.
And it's usually people who are hypnotists saying that I can do this better. However, keep in mind, we're not producing audios and online programs for hypnotists. I'm talking about like hypnosis
Right. Yeah.
programs for like nail biting and stuff.
Stop it. Right.
Yeah. Stop! I'm going to bury you alive in a box.
No, I mean to stop the nail biting
Stop the nail biting.
as opposed to starting. But
I was
you were
on
sharing. Go on. Yes.
Well, on that, I was speaking to a hypnosis group last night, and a guy said, I work with porn addiction. I said, do you give it or do you take it away?
No,
And I'm
you brought up something which I think this is the first time publicly I'll admit that I do this. And I need to have Keith Livingston on this podcast sometime soon. And I keep watching his Facebook feed. He's out of the country right now, I think. But there's something I heard him say or just saw him post on a forum somewhere where he goes, I didn't like surrounding myself with people who told me that the things I did didn't work.
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
they clearly were. And it's where, yes, here's the mailing list for local business and global business, Virginia Hypnosis. And yes, here's the other side of it, which is Work Smart Hypnosis, the training and the education. And there are times where I had moments where I would broadcast a message. And yes, I embrace the fact that as the business guy, people were going into both lists to see what I was doing. And
Right.
I even told them that. Except there's some moments where I would have the email that would go out to my list of clients and I'd get hypnotists responding to me telling me, oh, that doesn't work. Oh, that doesn't work. Meanwhile, here came like $10,000 of new bookings over the next couple of months.
Exactly.
So I've been guilty respectfully of sometimes going in and broadcasting a message to one, but then segregating out the other just to
You
go.
know,
And it's not that the stuff is proprietary. Yes, a lot of it's in the online program, but it's more that, here's what's just working and let's focus on that audience. We were talking about the online marketer Frank Kern, and he has this great thing about you owe it to your audience to remind them of the amazing value you can provide them.
right.
And you don't want to be there apologizing because you're afraid of some unknown person who may have judged you. This is why the email has the opt out.
Right.
And that's a gift. They're identifying, you know what? No, thanks. I'm no longer interested.
There's a well-known hypnotist who's been crashing my YouTube videos and commenting saying that my perspective on hypnosis is wrong. And I'm like, I'm going to go and work with my eighth person today who say it's right. So, and let's just be supportive of one another. And I get on a soapbox about this all
Mhm.
the time. So I'm not going to do it here.
Well,
Because
I
I
think
wanna-
that the phrase that I live by is that all this stuff works.
it does.
You just have
Absolutely.
to actually do it. You can go down the road, the old line I've got about a hammer from Home Depot. You
Love
can't
this.
return it and say it didn't work
Right.
because it's only a matter of how you actually put it into use. We're in an amazing renaissance with software that it was like earlier this year. I think we both bought this software and it just didn't work. One
Oh,
of those,
yes. Yeah.
yeah,
Yep.
and just the game of going, I haven't had this happen in a while.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of, again, putting it out there and actually following through with it and embracing those moments of, yes, done is better than perfect sometimes. But, here's a moment with my book where I had to go back and you were there in June and you opened up the book to go, let me find my name.
Yeah, I did.
And
Yeah, I did.
and that was the week, though, that I discovered that with Amazon, my entire Kindle preview was being eaten up by the dedication and acknowledgments.
Yep.
And I love all of you that I put in that opening segment, but that didn't sell books. So
Right.
now you're the afterward, which
And
we
I
just made that one change. And let's call it out. There was one opt-in offer in the book that a lot of people requested, but I lost the interest in building. So
Yeah.
the new printings don't have that one.
Yeah, that happened in my book as well. I was going to give away like a free persuasion course, and excuse me, and I still may do that, but instead I gave away a motivational mixtape.
Mhm.
And so anyway, when you go to the website for the book, there probably might be a different offer there. But I do want to talk about something though, Jason, that something I shared with a group I was speaking to last night that really just kind of blew their minds. And I think it's an 8-letter sentence that works with client conversion, especially with anxiety and with working with confidence issues. And let's see, hold on, let me just make sure it's 8 words. Yep, perfect. It's 8
Okay.
words. So this 8-word thing has been it's converted more clients than I think. I can't track this, but it converts almost every single client who needs help with anxiety relief because they need to hear this from you. Do you want to know what it is?
Of course.
Okay. So, I do a free consultation with people, and I used to do it in person, but now it's usually over video or over the phone because I don't want to drive to I live now 35 minutes away from my office. I don't always want to drive to my office if I have 6 virtual clients and 1 in-person 30-minute consultation. Like, no. So at the end of the consultation, whether it be over the phone, whether it be in video, whether it be in person, after I hear their story, and I do the Frank Kern sales thing where I say, okay, so if we're talking 8 weeks from now, and your problem that you had went away, and what would have had to happen those 8 weeks, and after we go through that whole consultation process, I say, okay, after hearing your problem, and here are the 8 words, I am confident that I can help you. And clients want to hear that.
Yes.
Because go back to what you were talking about, what Richard Nongarter was saying, take only those clients that you're confident you can help. Oh, sorry, awful. Take only the clients that are confident you can help. And I love Richard Nongarter. He is
yes.
a good friend, and he brings up a very valid point. And clients need to hear that you're confident you can help them.
Mm-hmm.
And I was experimenting every which way till Tuesday to say that every other way. And I'm like, why don't I just come out and say it? I am, Jason, I am confident that I can help you with your anxiety today. And you see clients lean in and they're like, I said, do you want to know how we're going to go about doing this? And this magic, it's like a magic sentence that just breaks all resistance, because you're never going to, well, I've never gotten a person that crossed their arms at that point. So go ahead and try, you know?
Yeah.
So those words, when you say them to a client, I'm confident that I can help you. But the thing is, you also have to believe it. You have to believe that you can help them too. And that's why I put my clients through this thing that I call the client success system. And it's a systematic way of, and I know you also do something similar with getting high-end clients that take your process way more seriously.
Mhm.
I think you call it the velvet rope strategy, or
Yes.
that was from Michael Port, I think, right?
The name is modeled after just the velvet rope policy, but he
Yeah.
also talks of something similar. So it's Michael Port-esque.
Yes,
Let's go
yeah.
with that.
And I call it my client success system, because it's not, it's every interaction that you have from before they even contact you to after they leave your office on the final session. There are things that have to happen, and these mechanistic things that have to fall into motion. And part of it is just being so darn confident that you can help them.
Mhm.
And you, everything that you're doing along the way is setting up that confidence that they have in you, and also making sure that they are the caliber of people that you want. And Jason, that's really the one of the main things I've changed in my practice over the past year, is only selecting the high caliber clients, to the point where I get leads every single day. People are requesting consultations, or discovery sessions, I call them now. People are requesting discovery sessions, and I do not accept them in because they didn't complete step 2.
Mhm.
Step
Yeah.
2, I'm making 2 fingers in the camera. Step 2.
Well, this is
And
the same thing I was mentioning about the two guys, which, yes, I can forgive the category of the one that doesn't do the web, and the stop smoking is much more direct for
right,
me. But it's where I don't want to have to repeat myself, because the one who has watched the video, the
right.
one who has gone through the website, and really even better, the one who's already paid me for the service, and now we're doing the consult as they're already a paying client, that's built that I'm confident I can help you scenario. And
Absolutely.
we're not having to play this. This is something you owe your clients to begin to work in this manner. And whether you do it my way, Dan's way, or figure out your own way, you know, this changes the dynamic on the phone and in the office. It takes it out of the, correct me on this, it takes me out of the I really hope this works
Yeah.
to I'm so ready for Thursday. Let's take care of this.
Yep, yep. And as we tell our clients, eliminate the word hope and the word try, and
Mhm.
and every interaction that you have with them, and my whole goal is to get them to already start changing before they even
Yes.
call me.
Nice.
You and I had, I was talking to you about business cards, which I hate business cards, and I had,
I only have them so the people leaving my office, once
I
they've
know
already
you
been
do.
here, can take them with them. That's yeah.
I know, and I had your business card on my coffee table staring at me, and my partner Dan was like, "Why is Jason on our coffee table? He's been there for a month and a half." I'm like, "Leave it there," and he said, "Why?" I'm like, "Because it's going to inspire me to make my own business card." So I just got made all these business cards that say like the anxiety relief guy, and I was talking to you about them and messaging you about them, and you said like make it a call to action, make it specific. Which, by the way, I was already gonna do before you told me that anyway. So back off, Bucko. No, but
For the audio at home, we can see each other, but we're only recording audio. But I put my arms up in the kind of gesture. Yeah.
no, I thought that was jazz hands.
Yes, yes. No, and just to call it out, it was just that the website was on the front of the card,
Yeah,
and changing it instead to visit this to watch a video, visit
yeah.
website address to get the thing,
Exactly.
which you are still calling it the anxiety stopping solution, right?
Stop it. Yes, I am. So, so
Did
I'm
I name
laughing.
that? Did I?
You kind of did, yeah.
Yeah,
And
just because it spells out ass.
it spells out ass, yeah.
Yes.
So I was doing shows, and I was trying to think of like a creative thing to call it, and Jason said, "Call it your anxiety stopping solution. Grab Dan's anxiety stopping solution. Grab my ass." So that's a joke, Jason. There are about 10,000 people who have seen my shows now that I tell that story to every single time because that's my lead capture. I say, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to go grab my ass. Let me explain this. It's my anxiety stopping solution, but my friend Jason affectionately pointed out that it spells ass. So it's anxiety stopping solution. And you're going to come up to me in a week and you're going to say, hey, I grabbed your ass and it really helped me out.
Dan, your ass changed my life.
And your ass changed my life.
There
So
you
there you're seeding, but no, so shut up for a minute. Because you're seeding though that this is going to work for them. And then right there, and this is so clever. It's the lead capture. And this is why I get and if you want to sign up for my ass, you can go to danishere.com. If you want to grab my transformational ass, you can go to danishere.com. And when you do, the reason why I added that humor and I tell that story is because, as you know, stories are one of the ways that lower down people's barriers. And you're seeding this now, saying that, yeah, I know it's funny, but my ass will change your life. And maybe you'll be reaching out to me a week from now saying, we watched your video and now we want to enroll in your group program because your 16-minute ass literally changed my life. And so thank you. And there you go. And you're welcome all at the same time.
Glad it's working.
Yes.
That brings about, I mean, let's unpack that. It's the confidence, as you said, to say to somebody, I'm confident I can help you with fill in the blank. The
Right.
same way that, I've always said, don't sell the program, don't sell the product, sell the next step.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a whole thing I just did online where the whole phrase was not sign up for the program now. It was instead, as soon as you're inside, log into the Facebook group and let us know how we can help you out and respond to my email and tell me where you want me to send the bonuses.
Right.
Which
Right.
was selling the next step once you're inside of it, where very often I'm talking about what I'm doing with the client, let's say in the last session, before they've even signed up for the first. So position them already in the process, but also in the result as well. Because what you said there is outstanding, that you want them showing up already having success.
Exactly. The reason why I don't usually take people right away who call me, I hate calling people back. I really do. And and this is awful. I have a list of people who left me messages. And I just found out today, by the way, because there's a woman who called me to book me for college, and this just lost me on a $2,500 gig. It still said as of today, and I just changed this as of the day that we're recording this. It still said from when I was in Las Vegas in October.
Nice.
I will be out of the office until October 14th. And so she called and left me this message. Well, I wanted to book a show, but it says that you're going to be out of the office until October 14th. And at this point, I'm no longer interested, clunk.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay. But there are people that call me, and I hate to say this, but very rarely do I call them back because they don't know how great I am yet. And because usually it's hey, I just found you online.
Yeah. I want to see what this hypnosis thing's about. See what kind of hypnosis you do. Yeah.
And to that,
You're not yet qualified to make that decision. You want them to jump through, let's call it this. You want them to jump through some of those hoops and build that rapport with you. So by the time they're on the call, now they're already pre-sold on it. They already know the value they're about to receive.
Absolutely. And even like how you answer the phone, I say, hey, this is Dan, the anxiety relief guy.
Yeah.
And people, I'm so happy. Oh my gosh, I'm so happy you just said that. Like, yes, and I'm confident I can help.
Quick self-deprecating story is that I was at the NGH convention about maybe 5 years ago, and here's this guy who took my class when I was training through their group. And what happened was that he was in town for one day. So he's like, oh, I'll go to the convention on Saturday. And he went to a bunch of workshops and he swung by my table in the morning. He saw me in the afternoon and he goes, Jason, I need to apologize to you. It's like, what do you mean? He goes, well, I really enjoyed your class and I'm out there seeing clients and it's really going great for me. But I only took your class because your office was like at the front of my neighborhood. I didn't know you were actually like really good at this. I've been to some pretty good workshops. I've also been to some that I kind of found a polite moment to walk out of. I didn't know you were like a big deal. I'm like, thanks.
Yeah.
Which you want to run your business from that place where your content, your videos, your stuff on your website, the things that people are interacting with, your podcast appearances. This is what's giving you, let me use the phrase, that celebrity level that
Right.
By the time they're in front of you, they're already primed for all of it to work, and take the stuff that we already know is effective and make it even more effective.
Right. Jason, I can't believe we made it almost an entire podcast without saying a new year, a new you. This, this is the new year, and I do want to say this to all the hypnotists and even non-hypnotists who are who are listening. Sorry, I really hope you do take this time to reflect and go back and listen to other podcast episodes that Jason has done with other people, because I have a 35-minute drive home and a 35-minute drive into my office, and every week I do listen to his podcast episodes, and Jason and I have very parallel businesses and sometimes even parallel lives. It's kind of interesting, and we get the same results, but sometimes we do things different ways, or we do them similar but different. And just the insight and the information that people share, take this time to really reflect on you and your business and what you want, because this is something where this is a new opportunity for you. The new year breeds new energy, new opportunity. And someone's just talking to me today and say, Dan, you sound like really excited and really enthusiastic and energetic. I say, it's because I know this year I'm going to make it great. Mm-hmm. And because I've already set things in motion before the new year even started to make things great. And so go out and make hypnosis great again.
Oh.
Did you say that, or is that somebody else?
I have a hat.
Yeah, you do.
And they shipped me two, and Scott Salmon has the other one, which is a preview. Next week on the podcast launching on January 9th is actually an episode that I'm putting together 3 core concepts that built my business. So getting out of the specifics of, here was the podcast appearance and the specifics of this custom website, but really 3 foundational strategies that really help to build that. So stick around till next week. That's when that's going to be coming out. Dan, where can people check you out? How can they get in contact with you?
So you can go to, yeah, sure. You can go to anxietyreliefguy.com, anxietyreliefguy.com. And I have like a million websites for a million different things. And I train and do all these different things as well. And, this is a great thing. Jason, some of my students have gone and taken classes with you, and some of your students have come taken classes with me. And each one of them, they get a different experience, because like I said, we do things differently. But generally, to find me, it's anxietyreliefguy.com. You can also go to dancandell.com as well. That's kind of, that will lead you all the other places that I have. Friend me on Facebook, hit me up on the Instagrams, on the YouTubes, and you'll see a bunch of stuff. And I always end with something. Let me know when you're ready to end and I can say it.
Well, mention the podcast too, which again, we're going to link all of this in the show notes at Work Smart Hypnosis.
Thank you for reminding me. So go and check out the Anxiety Relief Revolution podcast. Is on every podcast app. And they're short episodes. They're anywhere between like 8 and 15 minutes long. We were talking earlier, Jason, about it took me like 20 episodes in to really find my voice with that podcast. And the one thing that actually really helped is I added music. Mm-hmm. Like I added a little background music, and it just makes it more uplifting, more motivational for me. And you'll notice after episode like 18 to 20, you'll notice my energy shifts in the podcast, and all the episodes before that are still great, but you'll notice that my energy shifts and I just kind of come into my own a little bit more. I had another podcast before that called Square Peg Round Hole Podcast. We did 110 episodes of that. You were on one. Richard Nongard was on one. And also check out my book, The Hypnotic Connection, How to Influence and Persuade Anyone You Meet. Insider Secrets of a Real Hypnotist.
Ooh, real one.
Real ones, because, people think we're fake.
Well, this has been awesome. Thanks again for coming back on. And I already know the answer, but any final thoughts for the audience out there?
Yes. I have one final thought, like Jerry Springer. This is what I say at the end of every interview, and I really do mean this, and I try and live by these words, and I do live by these words, and I really do think that this can change your life, change your career, change your business. Be well, do good, and be true to who you are.
Jason Linett here once again, and as always, thank you so much for using this as an ongoing resource in our amazing hypnosis community. One of my favorite things about this program is times where, whether it's the Hypnotist Resource Group on Facebook, whether it's the Mike Mandel Hypnosis Academy, whether it's the Hypnotist Hypnosis Group, the one that Richard Barker runs, or even other various people, that these are all our peers. These are not competition. These are communities where someone pops up and they ask a question, and it might be something that I shared in one of the the solo episodes, like the one coming up next week, where I share the 3 foundational strategies that I think really are what built the business that I have nowadays. Or perhaps it's an interview, so looking at maybe it's something that Dan said, those 8 magic words, or a few weeks back, that digestion of anxiety thing that Duff McDuffie wonderfully demoed. The fact that this is out there as an ongoing resource, so continue to share it. Please go online to iTunes, to Facebook, leave your reviews. And again, head over to the show notes, worksmarthypnosis.com. That's where you can find all of the links to check out Dan's TED Talk, his book, his anxiety website, his dancandell.com website, his podcast. There's a lot of Dan out there, and it's all good stuff. And again, check out hypnoticbusinesssystems.com. Get the all-access pass to my hypnosis business training library. Rather than teaching you how I've built one hypnosis 6-figure business, well, this is the roadmap behind how I've built 3 of them. Seeing live clients, doing live presentations, and sharing the content online, that's exactly what I reveal in an ever-growing library, which, let's do the math. You simply book 1 or 2 new clients with the systems that I teach, you've earned back your investment, continue to use the systems, launch more of the business action plans, and you're ready to go. You don't have to reinvent the wheel, model what works. Join us today in a thriving online community at hypnoticbusinesssystems.com. Make 2020 your best hypnosis year ever. Happy New Year. We'll see you soon.
Thanks for listening to the Work Smart Hypnosis podcast at worksmarthypnosis.com.
Hey there, it's Jason, and I want you to be one of the first to find out as we upload amazing new content. So do this right now. Click the subscribe button right here on this video. That's going to link you to our YouTube channel here, and you will be the first to find out as new resources and downloads are made available. Do it now.